Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Birthright podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your soul sister and your guide walking this path as a modern woman who is looking to remember the ancient ways. In this podcast, really no stone goes unturned when it comes to the experience of being a woman in modern times, whether it's about our cycle and our hormones, fertility, relationships, patterns that we experience, which is something I'm going to talk about today, a very personal experience of mine, which is the mask of accommodation. Literally wearing a mask to accommodate others, to make sure other people feel safe and held and comfortable, and to not rock the boat too much. I just moved to Colorado, and it has been quite the transition. There's nothing like stripping away your community, all of your known roads and places that you go to, and the places that you frequent, like your gym, your grocery store. Nothing like stripping all of that away to really bring some deep patterns to the surface. And I've had this realization because, to be honest, it has been a very challenging week, probably one of the hardest week, the hardest week that my partner and I have ever gone through. And it's funny because we're in like paradise. I mean, the sun is shining, the sky is so blue, there's horses in our backyard and chickens and ducks that live in the front yard, and like, wow, life is so gorgeous here and so quiet. But I think that quiet and that lack of distraction is really what has given us the opportunity to look a bit deeper and to go into some of our own shadows that being in sacred union and partnership ignites, right? Our partner is our mirror. So, of course, we have realized that we are the perfect pair to bring out some of these things that are unhealed from childhood, and also things that have served us deeply throughout our life, which for me is this mask of accommodation, of being the good girl and being the nice girl, and not making too big of a splash in any way where people wouldn't like me, right? Because then that wouldn't be safe. So today I want to take you guys on a little journey of what this has looked like for me, and how staying quiet to protect someone is actually a quiet act of distrust. And we'll talk about what that looks like, what the cost of it is, because there certainly is a cost to have this pattern running unconsciously. And I have a hunch that this pattern is alive in so many women. So I hope that this reaches the ears of someone who needs to hear it, to know that you're not alone in navigating this. And I also want to talk about how we can reframe it. Because again, this is a pattern that has probably served us at some point in our life. So learning to love it, but awareness is key. Knowing it's there, that is key, which I hope is what this episode helps bring to you, is some awareness if maybe a pattern like this is running for you, or you notice it in someone that you love. So let's go. Accommodation definitely does not start in adulthood, just the same as most of our patterns don't. They usually have a root from our early years, from ages 0 to 7, where we developed this pattern as a protective or safety mechanism in order to just navigate the world and to feel safe doing so. So accommodation specifically can look like where keeping the peace in your home was actually a survival skill. Maybe you had angry family members, and you keeping the peace was a big part of your household. Or if you were ever told your feelings were too much, if you're a sensitive person or very emotional, and sometimes people in our households and our parents, they are not prepared for that. They don't know how to handle that. And so it's not met with that open lovingness, and those walls start building up of, in order for me to be accepted or to be loved here, I need to withhold some of my emotions that are too much for other people. Or another way could be maybe you were feeling like you're only loved when you're being easy to be around. That was a big one for me is, there's a lot of, where's my happy girl? Why aren't you happy? And so from there, I got some deep messages that being happy, smiling, being pleasant, that is how you are liked. That's how you're loved. And boom, the pattern starts. So it's so easy for these patterns to take root before we're ever conscious of them. Now, how do you actually recognize as a conscious adult if accommodation is showing up for you in the moment, right? Because that's the most important thing, is finding that awareness. And I can share with y'all, for me, what's been happening is I notice this voice running in my head of, maybe I'm not resonating with something that the person is saying, or maybe I'm starting to feel an actual physical response in my body, like my chest is tightening, or my posture is pulling away, or my arms are crossing because what they're saying to me is uncomfortable, or I'm not sure how to engage honestly in the moment. That's when the accommodation comes online. And learning to tap into your own body to actually feel when these things are happening, that is what's so important. I actually had this happen to me yesterday where I'm like, wow, I don't think I've ever had that kind of awareness before. I'm currently interviewing therapists. I have never had a therapist, and I'm really looking forward to exploring some new modalities, or maybe not necessarily new, but new for me, of internal family systems, somatic experiencing, and EMDR, because I really want to work through some of these patterns. But funny enough, while I was on a call with a potential therapist, this whole pattern came up and played out where an initial call with a therapist, you're really looking to vibe check. And I felt within the first 5 minutes that this actually was not a fit. Yet I stayed on the phone with her for 20 minutes, spent an additional 15 minutes of my time asking questions because I felt like it was the polite thing to do, when in reality, I had the thought, this isn't a fit. And I also had the conversation in my head, well, don't say that because it's rude, just continue asking questions. Maybe you'll learn something new, which there's an ounce of that's true, right? Maybe something would have happened throughout the time that we spent, but usually our intuition, our gut knows. And in my head, I was like, this isn't a perfect opportunity to practice and say, thank you so much for your time. I'm actually just feeling this is not a match and I don't want to waste any more of your time. So thank you. And I couldn't do it. I said, I'd be in touch. I'll get back to you, obviously 20 minutes later. And I got off the phone and I just sat with myself. And instead of being hard on myself for not saying it, I actually gave myself a little pat on the back because I was like, oh, I caught that awareness so quickly, the awareness of my accommodation pattern. And, that's a really simple example, but these things, they are so sneaky of when we are putting on a front, especially if it's something that we've been doing our entire life over decades. The awareness piece is the most critical part, in my opinion, to really unpacking this pattern. Now, there is a fine line between accommodation and genuine kindness. Because, I don't want to be like, okay, actually this isn't a fit, bye. I want to be genuinely kind, but whenever we are being truly kind and generous, that's coming from a state of fullness in ourselves. We have this choice in that moment that we want to give more of ourselves to this person. Whereas the accommodation is actually coming from fear. It's coming from a fear of being disliked. It's coming from a fear of thinking we might hurt the other person by saying what we truly feel, and that they're then going to be dysregulated emotionally. This has come up so much in my relationship, y'all. I mean, I love my partner so much. I don't want to hurt him, of course. And so some of the things that come to my mind, I'm like, that's kind of a hurtful thought. And not every thought needs to be shared. Some thoughts are just thoughts. They're just noise. We have 20,000 or more thoughts per day just firing off in our mind. So not all of them are worth bringing forward. But when it comes to feeling that true sense of accommodation, there's a fear, and feel it somatically of like a tightening, or your shoulders are hunching forward, or your heart starts beating a little bit faster, or you're pulling back. Breathing gets shallower. And when you're choosing to accommodate, what's happening is you're actually choosing to disappear. And it can be very quiet. Like I said, it can be very sneaky, this disappearing act. But this is the cost of accommodation, and especially doing it over years and years and years. You can start to experience a slow erasure of yourself. Losing myself in relationship has been one of my greatest challenges. I am a relationship girly. I have always been in relationship. My partner and I are coming up on being in relationship for 1 year. And I started this relationship very intentionally of saying, I will not lose myself. I will hold on to my sovereignty, my identity, my interest, my friends. I am not going to merge and meld into the man in my life, because I've done that before and it is so draining on my soul. I seriously see my soul as like this sparkly, holographic, kind of drippy orb in a field of flowers. And I had that vision come to me in a breathwork journey, and I still think of it all the time. And when I'm in a relationship where I'm accommodating and overgiving, people pleasing, there becomes like a filter in front of that sparkly holographic orb. And it becomes dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until my worst nightmare is that I become a shell of myself. I become so lost, especially when I have children and a family to manage, that I can't remember who I am, what I enjoy, and what my purpose, my mission is here on earth. Like, where's my heart leading me to? And I strongly believe that this pattern of accommodation is one of the quickest routes to get you there, to erasure of self. And nobody wants that. Shape-shifting around other people's comfort makes your truth so hard to locate. And I don't know if any of you listening out there have struggled with the question of what do I want? But that has been one of my biggest questions that constantly comes up in my life that I have to sit with, is who am I and what do I want? And the more diluted our truth becomes, the harder those questions are to answer. And then the easier it is for us to be swayed in other directions by our community, by our family, by our partner. That's why it's just so important to hold yourself in awareness of where these patterns might exist, where they come from, and noticing when they actually happen. And you know what else chronic accommodation is? It's actually a form of control. What I mean by that is when you're accommodating and controlling or managing the other person's emotions without their consent, because you don't trust that they can handle your truth, that is a direct association with saying, I do not trust you. So I'm going to soften this. I'm going to make this more palatable. I'm going to make sure that you don't have a reaction, that I don't then have to take care of your reaction. It is so controlling. Oh, when I had this realization, I was shocked because I like to think of myself as kind of like cool girl, cool as a cucumber. Nothing really rocks me that much. But the honest truth is that I just don't share it. I have the emotional response within my body, but it's not shared, especially when it comes to emotions like anger and rage. I really don't give myself a lot of opportunity to process it without stepping immediately into trying to see the other person's perspective, understanding that they maybe weren't trying to hurt me when they said it, and like going into gratitude and just being like, I'm so grateful for my life, like everything's good, which is great. Like I feel so blessed that I have a beautiful life, that it's normally really easy for me to get back into a gratitude state. But I'm also robbing myself of fully feeling my own emotions and being able to express them, especially when it comes to my close relationships, and trusting them, trusting that my emotions can be held by the other person, because another person's emotions are not ours to manage, no matter what our relationship to them is, whether we're a parent or a child or a sibling or a lover or a friend. We are not here to manage anyone else's emotion. So we have to give up that piece of control. So if any of this has resonated with you, I want to give you a really great and easy place to start, which I think for a lot of women, this is pretty relatable. Of someone asks you something and you say, "Oh, it's fine," or that's fine, sure, okay. And taking a moment when someone says something and actually mentally clocking, mentally check, like, I'm about to say it's fine, and I feel something within me that it's not fine. Because that's bringing awareness to the entire situation. So maybe you're not immediately stepping into speaking your full truth of like, actually, I'm noticing that that's not going to work for me. I like to say I'm noticing. I'm noticing that my heart felt a tightness when you said that. Or I'm noticing that I want to say that's fine, but I think that I would be overextending myself by saying yes to that. You know, these are the things that we can start practicing saying. But the first step, even if you just say it mentally in your head, become aware of how many times in a day that you're actually being that accommodating people pleaser, and just start noticing. I mean, for me, when I started noticing this, which y'all, this is literally like a week ago, that this pattern just got like blasted in my face. So I am just sharing this from real lived experience. But when I started noticing, I was like, damn, who am I actually? What do I really want? And being in a new place is just the catalyst for those questions. And, you know, I'm so grateful to be here in Colorado and communing with nature more, communing with the garden, spending more time with myself and with my body, because the body is really holding, you know, that initial response, that somatic response that we get, whether it's our chest tightening or shortness of breath, or we're pulling away, or we're crossing our arms, we're swallowing, like all of these signs of a nervous system activation, they're clues for us. And so the more we can get connected to our body and really develop that relationship, the easier it'll be to start picking up on these things and to notice them and to not make it a fully mental activity. Some of the things I've been doing here to get more into my body are belly dancing, which I'm so excited to be getting back into dance. It's such a beautiful way of really feeling yourself. I've also been having in my morning practice just more holding, grounding touch with myself, with my own affirmations of like, I am here. The answers that I seek are within. I trust my body. And even just grabbing myself like this, just squeezing my arms or squeezing over my heart or my womb space. And another practice that I would encourage everyone to do, maybe I'll do a whole episode on this, but it's putting on 3 songs in the morning and dancing to them. 3 songs uninterrupted, 9 to 12 minutes, and just dance. Just dance without performance, without doing it for anyone, and truly doing it for your body, letting the music move through you. This morning, I had some songs that I chose that I hadn't heard before, and they made me cry. It felt like they were speaking directly to me, and then to actually alchemize that through movement was really powerful. And I believe that all of these ways of continuing to get into our body, to trust our body, is the path to healing the accommodation wound. And again, accommodating and people pleasing, a lot of times there's no harm done. It's more of the long game that this plays out over, of like those small acts of distrust of what you're saying and what you're feeling, and how that compounds over time. And again, could lead to what is my personal worst fear, which is being a total shell of myself and forgetting who I am and why I'm here. So I hope that this message resonated with you. If it did, let me know in the comments. It's always so nice to hear that we're not alone in all of the things that we're facing and experiencing as women, as humans, in these meat suits, just walking around on this spinning rock in outer space. I mean, it's pretty wild. The depth and breadth of the human experience and emotions and patterning, and I feel like I'm just getting started. So I feel really excited about just noticing the things that I have lately and working on these patterns. And I'll continue to bring things to you guys that are alive for me and really present, because that's what we're here for. So hope you guys enjoyed this solo episode number 11 of the Birthright podcast. And if you are new to this podcast, please check out the link in the show notes for my women's community. It's free, it's online, it's called Birthright, same name as the podcast, where I'm just diving a little bit deeper into these topics each week. I have a bunch of free recorded webinars on there that you can access, and a supportive community of women. We have about 54 members so far, and looking forward to continuing to grow that. So thank you for being here. It's an honor to walk alongside you in this path. If you're here, I know that you are growth-oriented and that you are just ready to experience the fullness of life that is available to us in the female form, because it's pretty spectacular. I'll see you guys again soon.